Hi, I'm Susan, and this is my very awkward intro. So, I am making a video where I say 50 times. No, I'm kidding. 51. No, seriously, I'm making a video about things to think about when it comes to the spiritual movement, the wellness, culture and all that shit that is going on right now. I don't want to discredit these movements. I don't want to make anyone feel like they're in the wrong situation if it is helping them. I just want to shine a light on several things that I think people need to think about and people need to be kind of mindful of. Mindfulness, they teach you that. This is some other side of the mindfulness tree. So the things that I have, look, I wrote a note and everything. I've got notes. Self-help. Self-help is important. But if you go into one of these groups, groups, and you start picking yourself apart and taking on every single thing about what they're saying for gospel and start losing things about yourself, that's when it's not self-help anymore. It's not. Okay, so what I mean by keeping it as in self-help is taking bits and pieces that work for you. Example, for me, waking up really, really early helps me personally. I do go back to bed eventually, but it does help in that moment. Whereas for my husband, he thinks getting up at fucking 4 a.m. and beating the sun up, as Savvy Writes books would let you know about. So when you start taking bits and pieces, that's fine. Tools, resources, things that do work for you, that's fine. But when you start molding yourself into what these people think that you should be and what you should be doing, and you don't find complete and utter fulfillment from those things, that's when it gets a bit tricky, because a lot of these groups make the comments like, well, if you don't do this, do you really want change? If you don't do this, are you really getting comfortable with the uncomfortable? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I understand to a point getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. I do understand that to a point, because as you can most likely tell, I am extremely uncomfortable filming this video because I have a lot of anxiety. But I know that my joy for YouTube and my joy of wanting to do this outweighs the anxiety, right? And I know that in myself. So what is good for myself, I know that in my core. So that's when you need to take away what they're saying, put it behind your fucking head, put it in the bin, who cares? But get rid of that, just get rid of that. And think to yourself, the best you can. I like to think that even if we're in a really hard place or I don't want to make this a broad term because I don't want to make anyone feel a certain way. But if you feel deeply, deeply uncomfortable and deeply feel like these things are not helping you, they're hindering you, don't go along with it and don't buy into that manipulative, gaslighting sort of thing where the blame is all put back on you, because it's not. You know what I mean? When it comes to self-help, a part of that should be the assertiveness within yourself, that you know what is good for you and what is not good for you. These people that make a broad spectrum of help catered to X amount of people is not always going to work for you. It's not always going to work for everybody. And that's why you take bits and pieces from all of them and see what does and doesn't help you. Okay, so that's the first thing. And you shouldn't fall into that, get comfortable with the uncomfortable, because that's a cult thing. Yeah, that's one of the signs of being in a cult, and having that group mentality that's like, it starts off with, you should get this course, it'd be really good for you. you should be a vegan. This would be really, really good for you. You should give me all your money and come live on my commune. You know what I mean? Like, it gets crazy real quick. Let's sacrifice your firstborn. Like, it just gets crazy real quick once you start falling into that trap. Now I'm rambling on. So the next point is, they add a lot of pressure. Not all of them, I'm not saying all of them. I don't know why I have to give this disclaimer every time I speak. Like, if you come to this video and think that I'm making this all about every single movement, I'm not. I'm literally telling you, take every situation, including what I'm saying to you, bits and pieces that resonate with you and that, you know, sit with you and that you agree with and things like that, right? And I think that when they start adding pressure, like, you have to do this course, okay? Once-off course, 6 weeks of a program where you do meditation, journaling, a certain gym routine and all those sort of things. Okay, that's fair. But you got to look at the other side of it, okay? What are their credentials for this? What do they have to really offer apart from a million things you can actually get free on the internet? You know what I mean? Like, you think about it. There's so many apps where you can go on there and learn about different meditations, different workouts, different meal plans, different vitamins that you should incorporate into your meals, different things you should incorporate in your daily life, okay? And that's fair to do one of those courses if it really fucking hits you in the face and you're like, boom, I want to do this, it's going to make me feel good, I want this. Then I say, what's the problem? Do it. But when it comes to a thing where they're like, okay, you have to do this course every 6 weeks, you should do the next one and the next one and the next one, and you're spending $1,500 every 6 weeks on these courses, what are you actually gaining from that? Because it takes, how long does it take to form a habit? Is it like 3 days? Break a habit's 3 days. Don't quote me on that. But do you know what I mean? Like, you don't need to continuously do these things, because if you love them and they're comfortable to you and you enjoy them, it doesn't need to be ingrained in you by leaders that you're sending X amount of dollars to all the time. Like, it doesn't work like that, because if it's not sitting with you, they're telling you that that's wrong, like it should sit with you, but if it doesn't, then it doesn't. And if you've learned enough from that first round, then you don't need to do anything further and just keep going with your life. And then they start with, you know, weekly Zoom calls or being accountable to a group of other people, you know, like it's some sort of AA meeting, which can be beneficial for some people. Whereas other people, are you really being accountable? Is that self-help, being accountable to other people? No, you need to be accountable to yourself. Me, example, if I ever wanted to quit smoking cigarettes, I don't need to be accountable to other people. I need to be accountable to myself. But if that works for you, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so we have to do these weekly Zoom calls, okay? And we have to go for jogs with everybody, you know, twice a week, 3 times a week. Okay, I get that. But there comes the other side again that I was saying. So the other side of that is, if you're doing all these things to benefit your mental health, right, which you've seen within yourself that maybe your mental health is negatively affecting your relationship, or, you know, struggling with everything on your plate, why are we going to add more to our plate when we're not actually achieving anything from our normal day-to-day life? Example, when my husband was in his group, I will see an HBO special on that group very soon. You know, he had to do 2 workouts a day. He had to wake up at a certain time. He had to drop into these groups and post videos and get uncomfortable with those sort of things and stuff like that. And you know what? If there was 20% of that, that would help. But as it went on, I saw that he was losing a lot of sleep because he was keeping up to date with everything he was doing. He was missing out on a lot of time with our children. He was missing a lot of time with me. They expected a lot of showing and expressing via social media, which is gratification for the group, gratification for my husband, but it was the wrong gratification because he was not improving his mental health overall. He was just adding more pressure to himself, more on his plate, taking him away from his family, when that's why he wanted to do it initially, was to heal his mental health and heal, you know, the ways that he handled situations and things like that, to better himself, not only for himself, but for his children and for his wife. Now, when you start saying that they have to do X, Y, and Z within these groups 7 days a week, there's a task every day, there's money that needs to be paid, there's this, there's that, there's all these things. What actually are you improving? Do you want me to tell you what you're improving? You're improving the marketability of these groups. Yeah, you're getting their name out there. It's like the ultimate epitome of MLM, to be honest with you. And I feel like it's really unhealthy. And I feel like when they, at the start of it, they find out all your flaws and everything about you and everything that you're vulnerable to, and they play to that. And there's keywords and there's things like that. And maybe when I do another video on this, like, I can share a bit more of that, a bit more of, you know, keywords, key situations, all those sorts of things. But this is my first ever time, you know, being on camera and filming something, I guess, and expressing. So I don't have a script, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sitting there reading word for word what I want to say, because I feel like that's what I kind of miss about YouTube. I miss when you sit and, like, they sit in front of a camera. There's no fancy lighting. There's no fancy anything. Like, it's just chill. It's just relaxed. And I feel like that's what everyone's missing from YouTube. And I feel like social media is kind of destroying that, because you see all these gurus and all that sort of stuff that talk about spiritual movements and influencer culture and all these sort of things, and they're all just a ham and cheese sandwich. Like, they're all just the same. Bread, butter, ham, cheese, bread. Like, it's all the same. You know what I mean? And I can't stand that, because then we're all losing our identity. And you're losing the self in help. You know what I mean? Self-help. Where's the self? Everyone needs to be themselves. You know, so that's where the next part is, where they idolize the leaders, or the, what is the word apart from leader? I feel like that might come across as has a negative connotation. Maybe that's because that's how I see it. You know, I watch a lot of true crime. Shout out to my fucking girl, Stephanie Harlow. Love you, girl. Anyway, I watch a lot of that sort of stuff, and I see a lot of similarities between cults and self-help stuff. You know, and I make my jokes and things like that, but I think it comes down to when you start idolizing these people and you start living for their praise and living for, you know, I am achieving something and I am good and I am doing this and I love myself because I'm doing all these things and it's so great. But when you start to question them on their motives, or you start to question, or you start to pull away, or you start to be busy with your own life, that's when they turn around and say, well, you're not doing enough for yourself. Don't you love yourself? Aren't you there for yourself? You know, and that becomes really toxic and really unhealthy. And I think that's why I really wanted to make this video, because I can see exactly what it does to people. And people take the blame onto themselves, which is very common, you know, when we're struggling with anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, trauma, things like that. And I think a lot of these groups play on that, and they think they have a manual for life. And if you don't follow that manual to, you know, to the nth degree, whatever the word is, that you're not doing it correctly. And I'm here to tell you that's a load of garbage. It is, straight out, garbage. You need to take from these situations and these people and these movements and influencers and Instagram and Twitter and fucking whatever else there is, including YouTube, including this video, what works for you and what works for your family and what works. And if these things don't work for you, I can promise you there is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. You are beautiful, you are smart, you are talented, you are gifted, and you will find your way as long as you always stay true to yourself and what sits right within your heart. And if that's being in a cult, so be it. I'm just kidding. Truly. If you want to be in a cult, be in a cult. I'm happy for you. Don't give them all your money. And don't let them take you away from your family. But you can live on the commune, that's fine. Thank you for watching. Bye.